let's talk about why we know why now that they hate Elon Musk. It's not because he's a bit of an edgy boy on Twitter. It's not because he likes memes. It's because he is genuinely threatening a kind of this is what Saul Alinsky would describe as a conflict within the haves, the elite class of the world, basically, of Silicon Valley. And Elon Musk is upending this apple cart. He's causing a lot of trouble, and he's bringing in a different moral order, and they can't stand it. And so I think it's worth just pointing out that we actually have a deep think on lotuseast.com about this, about how do antitrust laws actually work to break up monopolies. And specifically in this, they talk about Facebook, but the same principles that apply to Facebook also apply to Twitter, because the answer is actually no. Because these aren't actually monopolies as we understand them. Because there's lots of competition. You know, there's lots and lots of different places where you can go to use social media. The problem is that it's got a kind of monopoly of attention.
Yeah.
And so this is outside of the government's purview and ability to control, because we self-associate on these platforms. There's nothing the government can do about it.
The only way it could be fixed is if there was somehow you could transfer data between platforms, so you could take all your network, because it's your personal network that's the value. Because if you go to a new social media platform, it doesn't have the value because you can't speak to all the same people you're speaking to. But if there's some sort of open, just the open source like XML that allows them to speak across platform. So you go to Getter, but your tweets are still seen, your posts on Getter are still seen by your Twitter followers.
That's probably the apex form of social media, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's how it all ends up. Well, I just use whichever one I want, and I speak to anyone, anywhere, at all times. But this is the problem. And so basically, as they conclude in this is Josh and Harry's deep thing. It's really good. There essentially isn't a solution to the Twitter issue. And so it has to come from private realms. And so this is why what Elon Musk is doing, he's actually got the effective method of attack against the woke monopoly, ideological monopoly on Twitter, because they can't really attack them through legal methods. So anyway, let's talk about Elon Musk a bit. Is he a bad manager? Well, Bloomberg thought no, actually. He's amazing as a manager. And let's be honest, he does have a track record that kind of implies it. Now, a lot of his critics will say, yeah, but this is just built around his cult of personality. It's like, so?
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah, this cult of personality that allows them to spend $0 on advertising.
Yeah. And get $1 trillion companies and things like that. I mean, that's a hell of a cult of personality.
Yeah.
Leverage it if you've got it, right? As they say in here, Elon's a pretty good business manager. In fact, the chief executive officer of the world's most valuable automaker has no equal. Among the 10 largest publicly traded companies, Tesla Inc. is number one in growth in the past decade, and with revenue increasing more than 260-fold to $53.8 billion. Number one in the past 12 months, with sales surging 71%. Number one in share performance over 5 and 10 years, with its stock appreciating between 15 to 146-fold, respectively, to a recent $1,000 increase or something. And number one in employment by more than quintupling its workforce since 2016, according to the data that Bloomberg themselves have compiled. I mean, that's amazing. Like, you have to have some kind of talent for managing if you get the results like this. And I mean, at the end of the day, he's hit on a very trendy social force, isn't it? Oh, we need electronic cars. We've got to get off oil. Well, okay, well, I make electric cars. I'm the guy for electric cars. That's what I'm famous for.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Not come to me?
Yeah. And isn't this what the left wants?
Yeah, exactly.
Electric cars instead of like V8s.
Yeah, but not like that. Not like that guy.
Yeah,
it's like, too bad.
We want shit ones made by... Sorry, we want terrible ones made by Owen Jones.
Exactly.
In a communist-era factory.
Yeah, and so someone's just pointing out that, look, he's really done well here. He's got... half a dozen companies are all worth over $1 billion. What have you got? And it's like, okay, fair point, to be honest. Anyway, and so I mean, Tesla's doing so well. He's worth about $249 billion generally, and he's expecting a 23 billion share bonus from Tesla. If you go to the next one, John, it's just because of their record profits, because he's doing an amazingly good job. And so when he's like, look, I'm going to pull out 43 billion to buy Twitter, he can do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, now we have a wild card. And so this ties in very interestingly with a lot of elite theory that I've been reading recently. People like James Burnham, Musk, Pareto, and they talk about how, and this ties in as well with people like Saul Alinsky, who talk about, look, there's always conflict within the elites, and what Elon Musk is showing us is how this conflict within the elite class plays out. Because, and we'll go through exactly what Elon has actually managed to leverage here in a second, because he is definitely causing the right waves, and he is tearing off the mask, right? Because everyone on the left thinks, oh, well, the billionaires just care about money. No, absolutely not. Elon Musk is basically burning money at this point. And when you've got 250 billion, why would you care about money? Like, you've literally got no concerns whatsoever about money. You must be considered about other things, because it's literally Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, what are you looking for? Well, all my material needs are met 1 billion times over. So I must be looking for something else at this point.
Yeah.
And so it's not just about money. And we know that it's not about money for the people who already control Twitter as well, because essentially the academics are coming out and telling us this, right? So this was from Business Insider, and this was fascinating, right? Elon Musk's plans to privatize Twitter have spurred concern among privacy experts and social media researchers. Great. That's great news. One former Harvard professor told the Washington Post that having one person in control of the social platform is a disaster for user privacy. I think we've crossed that Rubicon.
Yeah, so there's people in control of it already, and it's all opaque. They're insanely rich, California elites. Like, we don't see what rules they're using. We don't see what processes.
Elon Musk wanted to put their algorithm as a public algorithm, doesn't he? And they're like, no, you can't have that. It's like, why not?
Yeah.
You know, why not? And they're, be user privacy. User privacy. What is Mark Zuckerberg doing with my data? Whatever the hell he likes.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, Zuckerberg, I'm pretty sure he's the controlling stake of Facebook. And that's got like 2.5 billion users. And he's got all of their data and is obviously farming this out to me.
And WhatsApp and Instagram are owned by Facebook as well.
Absolutely.
And also, I mean, for people on the left, they should be worried about the current ownership of Twitter and Facebook, because we saw with the Cambridge Analytica scandal, the right very cleverly leveraged Facebook data to push Brexit over the line and to get Trump elected. Yeah. So surely, if you're a leftist and you're worried about public discourse and the state of social media platforms, having this openness and showing the transparency and how the data's collected and used and how the algorithms are used and how anybody being deplatformed, how those rules are applied and what those rules are, because at the moment it's completely arbitrary, capricious, and opaque. Sure, that's a good thing for the left.
You would think so, but I just love this. I think this is a Rubicon that's been long crossed. I mean, we've got no user privacy on the internet. I don't know why we'd pretend that we do. But anyway, a former professor called Shoshana Zuboff said that huge ad revenue from Twitter, huge ad revenue, I don't think so, an unregulated data collection about user behavior have changed the social media industry, which now holds incredible sway over real-world events. Well, yeah. And that's why it's pretty bad that we don't... I mean, could you name a single person on the board of Twitter?
Jack Dorsey?
Apart from Jack, sorry. I should have mentioned apart from Jack. So obviously, he's the go-to guy.
No. I bet a few of them have got green hair and nose piercings.
We'll talk about it in a minute. Right, so they say, well, because content on social media platforms can influence public opinion and lead to changed behaviors, she said, the people in control of the sites hold a tremendous amount of power. Boom. That's the statement. Yes, we know. We all know. We know, you know, and you know, we know that we know, right? So that's what the discussion is really about. This isn't about money. This is about control. Who gets to decide who can misgender someone on social media? Who gets to decide what gets buried, like the Hunter laptop story? You know, that's the problem. And that's what Elon Musk is challenging from within the inside of the elite class. This isn't like a rogue element that's come from without, no, this is a guy with unbelievable institutional support already, and he's the one battering down the door. So it's no wonder that they are absolutely shook by this. But I love what they say here. Putting that power in the hands of a single person would be incompatible with democracy. Well, why is it incompatible with democracy putting it in the hands of 10 people?
Yeah.
How is it any less democratic?
Yeah.
That's an oligarchy. That's an aristocracy.
Yeah, you're just moving from an autocrat to the Communist Party.
Exactly. It's absolutely no different. There are simply no checks and balances from any internal or external force. Well, what checks and balances are there now? Like, literally, there's nothing they can do. And the issue is that the Constitution of the United States the Supreme Courts, they always side with the social media companies and their freedom to deplatform, because this is their freedom of expression to allow you to publish on their thing. And so there is no such thing as some sort of social media constitution. And in the way that the United States is constituted at the moment, and I'm not saying this should change either, nor could there be. But anyway, should Musk take ownership of Twitter, the Tesla CEO would have near complete control over an amount of user data that cannot be compared to anything that's ever existed. Facebook, how about that? It's way bigger than Twitter, right? But again, it's not the user data they're actually concerned about. This is a mask that they're hiding behind, right? It allows intervention into the integrity of individual behavior and also the integrity of collective behavior. They know that Twitter is the public square, as they say, where opinion is formed, and from these opinions people behave in certain ways in their voting patterns and things like this. This filters down through the politicians, through the media, through the talking heads, through just activists who are using the platform. And it's that is the influence they are wielding, and they know it. This is the admission. And we know that this isn't going the way they want, because they say this is a disaster. Great. And it's not only about Elon Musk, but he kind of puts it on steroids. Fantastic. Because, I mean, really, we should leave Twitter in the hands of like a Saudi prince or something. Right? Yeah. Like that's the guy who really needs to be controlling the public discourse across the world and in the West. I mean, it's a disaster if Elon Musk gets hold of it. This guy's fine. He, of course, didn't want to sell the company to Elon Musk. And so Elon Musk was like, well, there's a plan B. And so the Twitter board were like, right, we could accept this massive overinflated price that he is offering for our platform. He offered 43 billion. The platform's worth like 30 billion. So if it were about money, they would be like, cash in. We're 13 billion up. This is great for us as shareholders. But they don't care about that. It's interesting how the board has decided to take the poison pill, which is, as the Daily Wire describe it. I'll just talk about that in a second. But anyway, sorry, if we can go to the... It is this one, actually. Elon Musk, if you can scroll down, there's a tweet in here, right? So that shows these are the board members of Twitter, right? Brett Stephen Taylor, don't know who he is, but he's got a 0.007% ownership of shares. Parag Agrawal, 0.063%. He's the CEO. Mimi, can't even pronounce that, 0.000 shares. She's got so few shares, she doesn't even register to the third decimal place. How mad is that? Fei Li, 0.001%, and then you've got Jack Dorsey going down at 2%, right? And so Elon Musk replies to this saying, wow, with Jack departing, he's leaving the Twitter board apparently, the Twitter board owns collectively almost no shares. I mean, it's, less than a decimal point worth of shares, like 0.1% shares, right? And objectively, their economic interests are simply not aligned with the shareholders, and that's true. That's a very strong argument. Now, Plan B is something that Elon Musk mentioned in I think it was a TED Talk, an interview he did with some guy, and he's been, but he kept it under wraps, but he's been teasing it. He tweeted out this: "Something is the night." That'd be Tender is the Night, a song, I believe. And so this is his next move, as the Daily Wire reports. So because they took this poison pill, the poison pill is a limited duration shareholder rights plan that allows the existing shareholders, except for Musk, exclusively except for him, to purchase additional shares at a discount, as in diluting his... the number of shares that he controls in Twitter. And so he had 9.2% or something like that. And so they will sell a bunch of shares to various other people, and it will reduce the amount that he controls. And so he will be a less influential agent within Twitter.
So would this be like would this basically, they create more shares to sell to dilute his, right?
Yeah, because I mean, the shares, they're not physical things. They can just say it. They can just make up as many as they want, basically. And so this will dilute Musk's holding in the company, making the cost of a takeover even higher, because these are just fabricating shares out of nothing, selling them to people who already own shares, and so he's got to pay even more. So it's a way of preventing his hostile takeover of the company by simply making it just too expensive. And so Elon Musk had proposed, he's teasing, sorry, if you can go back to we're still on that one, he's teasing a tender offer. So a tender offer is an offer to buy the shares of shareholders of a public traded company at a specific price at a predetermined time. So he can go directly to the shareholder and say, look, I'll buy your shares. Me and you rather than going through anyone else. And so in some cases, these tender offers may be made by more than one person, such as a group of investors or another business, and they're used commonly as a means of acquisition of one company by another. And, the shareholders make fat stacks of cash, so they're all happy with it. The people who want to own this company end up owning the company that they're looking for, and the board may not have anything they can do about this. I'm no expert in this, so if I'm wrong about any of this, correct me in the comments, please. And if you've got any ideas where you think that's going to go, let me know. And so the question is, okay, well, 43 billion, that's a lot, but Elon Musk, richest man who's ever lived, can he raise 43 billion? And Elon was like, yeah, but actually, how about I raise 46.5 billion instead? Because, if this is about profitability, as the Saudi prince said, to give you the Saudi prince's quote, I don't believe the proposed offer by Elon Musk comes close to the intrinsic value of Twitter, given its growth prospects. Twitter doesn't have growth prospects. It's been about 300 million users for the last 5 years or so.
Yeah, particularly as they seem to decapitate their most popular users, like Donald Trump. They kick him off.
Yeah, they're constantly shooting the most popular users in the head. So it's obvious that this is not about money. As the academics say, this is about control. And so Elon's like, right, okay, well, boom, here's an even bigger stack, an extra 3.5 billion. How about that? But the question is, where did he raise it from? So he has committed 21 billion funding of his own, and he's got 13 billion from Morgan Stanley Senior Funding, which is very interesting. And then Morgan Stanley apparently gave him another 12.5 billion in margins loans, according to his securities filing. That's fascinating. Who are Morgan Stanley?
Big bank.
That's right, big investment bank. They also own 8.4% of Twitter. That's interesting, isn't it? Because this now, Elon has managed to essentially conscript onto his side a fairly large segment of the elite class that controls Twitter. Because as the shareholders go, this is now about 17, 18% of Twitter shareholders. They're essentially in Elon Musk's corner against, well, not the board, because they don't own any shares, but against the rest of the shareholders. And it's very interesting because, I imagine that Morgan Stanley, as much as they're concerned about Twitter control ideologically, and who knows whether they are, but I think they might actually be concerned about money, about returns. And so Elon Musk, if you are concerned about money, you are definitely going to put the money on Elon.
Yeah.
Because, he made himself the richest man in history somehow. You're not going to bet on the Twitter board.
He's got a track record of incredible success.
Yeah, exactly. So the people who are actually concerned about money would side with Elon Musk, and those people who don't, well, I'm guessing that they are the ones who are concerned about the ideological control. And so this shows us there is a rift, a crack within the elites, because the elites can fall from grace. They can lose their positions, and they are aware of this. The stakes are incredibly high in all of this, and they do stand to lose a lot of money. So the question is, are they prepared to stare down, play this game of chicken with Elon Musk? Because it's entirely possible that Elon Musk could just keep raising more money. It's entirely possible. And so the question is, how far are they willing to go? And how ruined could they be in response? And it's not that there aren't other things that are happening around this. So Florida man Ron DeSantis is obviously keeping his eye on this. That's not the next one, please, John. Have you not got an Instagram link? Oh, there we go. Twitter link. So Ron DeSantis is chiming in on this. Now, there's probably not a lot that Ron DeSantis can actually do, but he's basically saying, well, look, if they're not taking the money, they're not giving the best value return for their shareholders, which is true, and legally they do have an obligation to do such a thing. And so he's going to look into what the legal system in Florida can do. Now, there's probably not that much other than find some Floridian shareholder who feels wronged by the fact that they're not giving them payout that they are legally entitled to, and take it to court. But it might matter. Who knows? I don't know. If you think you know, let me know in the comments. But this is good. It's good to see pressure mounting from people who are in this elite class, people who have influence and power and actually can make things happen. So it's really, really good to see. And just as a final thing, Elon Musk has got this interesting perspective. You can scroll up just above this one. He says, if our Twitter big succeeds, we'll defeat the spam bots or die trying. And he's going to do that by authenticating everyone on Twitter. Now, there are going to be lots of people who say, well, I like having an anonymous Twitter account because it means I can't be cancelled for voicing my opinions. And I'm entirely sympathetic, as someone who's been cancelled, to that position. However, this, I think, only prolongs the reign of terror of cancel culture.
Yeah.
While they are essentially just shooting anonymous accounts, that means there aren't any real victims as they're concerned. And one way of getting around the toxic environment of Twitter would be to actually have everyone verified on it.
Yeah. Yeah, if it would remove that sort of road rage thing. People feel anonymous, they're in their bubble, they can scream whatever they want, and they're not going to get in trouble. And, Twitter's harsh sort of adherence to rules around harassment and stuff means, that's limited to a certain extent, but people can just still be snide because they're not real people.
Yeah. It doesn't reflect on them.
Yeah. And I think, and also the Twitter's application of like harassment rules and stuff is so arbitrary. It like stifles. When you're actually composing a tweet on Twitter or you're engaging with people, you can't even ironically say things that you'd say to a mate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And they actually have a thing that pops up saying, "Are you sure you want to tweet this?"
Yeah.
It's like,
this
shut
isn't
up,
the sort
robot.
of thing that most people tweet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the point is, and I, like I said, I am very sympathetic to the people who are saying, "Well, look, I don't want to get cancelled." It's like, yeah, but while you're still hiding, it means that cancel culture has more power.
Yeah.
That is its power over you. Unfortunately, we all, as James O'Keefe points out, we'll have to kind of stand up and do something brave, and we have to do it all together, basically. And if we don't do it all together, then they keep sniping the individuals.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is a bad idea,
Yeah.
as unpopular as it might be with a certain constituency.
Yeah, and it's great to see like woke people have been setting the agenda throughout. We've got systemically woke institutions, like academia, tech, and like. So woke people have been setting the agenda with Twitter, setting the rules, how they're applied. So it's great to see that like non-woke people who actually have the power and have the money, like Elon Musk isn't woke. Most people...
He's anti-woke.
He's anti-woke. So most sensible people are anti-woke. Most successful people are anti-woke. So it's great to see them taking a stand and coming in. And when they get motivated, stuff's going to happen because they're not just a bunch of screaming green-haired people with nose rings.
Yeah, well, they're people who literally track records of success.
Yeah.
And they post funny memes. So anyway, that's that. And I love the way it's going. I love the way it's going. And I love the way they're screaming about it.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as this premium video, Urban Warfare between John and Bo. And if you want to follow what else John is putting out, you can follow him on Getter at John Wheatley on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.